Celeste, how are you doing? And you're in the middle of like a windstorm of like a lot of things, people raving about you, calling your name. How are you managing it all?
I guess I just try to just take it all in and not let it go to my head too much and just get on with like the necessary stuff like making music and playing shows. Yeah.
How do you take care of yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess the most important thing is sleep. I think that's something that's always like remains so important for like your singing voice.
Yeah.
But I train sometimes like in the mornings. I try to just wake up.
Yeah. That sounds like a very good thing to do. And then also when I say Father Moody and Father Baldy.
Oh my goodness!
What do you think about when I say those names?
I went to a Church of England primary school called St. Paul's, and on the hill there was this church next door to our school. It wasn't as like grand as this one. It was really cool, and the two priests that were there that used to do like the service every week were called Father Baldy and Father Moody.
Yeah. Because that's where your love for soul music started, in church, right?
Well, I didn't initially. My love for music really just came from my family playing that sort of stuff to me, and I think if anything, the thing that I got from that experience was just more like the religious iconography and like finding that those sorts of things quite inspiring, and hearing just your voice like echo around that sort of space was quite interesting. But
do you still use stuff that you learned from singing in church on your performances now?
Well, I didn't really sing in church. I think people always say that, I assume it, but and I'm not particularly religious either. But really I learnt to sing from listening to records and singing along with them, and I sort of used that as a way to tell like if I thought I was a good singer or not. And that was the soul singers like Aretha Franklin. And even I loved Donna Summer and Millie Jackson and people like that were maybe a bit more disco era than they were like soul 60s.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's kind of how I learned to sing.
Yeah. Because I know when you first started out singing, you and your friends, you prided yourself in being into like the not very teenager kind of music, soul music.
Yeah.
Have you ever been afraid when you started making this music that it was going to be hard for people from your own age group to connect with the music?
I think like initially when I'm first ever making music, the most important thing for me is for it to feel like it's genuine, and I feel like if that exists within the song, then I don't really worry about if people will sort of agree with it or find something in it for themselves, because I think like once you do that and you feel it's honest, you're kind of, there's a confidence you have, whether it's people your own age or people that are older than you, people that are younger than you, like there'll be someone that likes it kind of thing.
That's why people connect with the music.
Yeah. So.
And then speaking of songwriting, because it started out with poetry, and it's funny because I've been talking to a lot of artists during this week, and poetry has been coming up a lot, like Arlo Parks.
Oh yeah, I love her.
Yeah, she loves you too, by the way.
And her poems are amazing.
And Fontaines D.C. I know you're a very big fan of Fontaines D.C, right?
Yeah, I probably should stop saying that I'm obsessed with them, so I'll be so weirded out. But I am.
And the way that they put poetry into their music, something you do as well.
Well, initially, I keep saying the word initially, but when I first wrote a song, it came from a poem kind of thing. And even in that moment, I didn't really see that as a poem. It was just like, I had loads of things in my mind that I just wanted to write down, and it kind of came out in that form.
Right.
And then I went to the studio, and that was the only piece of writing I'd ever really done. And so when I was working with these people and they asked me like if I had any ideas of what I'd like to write, I just was sort of like, well, I have this piece of writing that I did. It was literally the night before my first ever studio session, and then that turned into my first ever song. And now really, I don't necessarily write poetry to make a song, but I definitely read a lot to just sort of like open up my mind to new words and new phrasing and different perspectives and everything. And then I just try to jot down like anything that comes to mind whenever it does. And sometimes it will feel like quite poetic, and other times it will just feel like quite conversational, and I won't necessarily know when and where it's going to work in a song, but I kind of keep it somewhere to refer back to if it ever feels like the right moment to introduce that idea onto a piece of music kind of thing. Yeah.
When did you decide to pursue music as a career? Because there has been a moment where you were like dabbling in between like textile and music, right?
Well, that was really when I was 16 and I was in college, and I guess you have all of these ideas of like different things you want to do and like different things you want to be around that age. And it was at that point, like 17 years old, that I decided that I would take music more seriously over other things that I was studying at that time. But I studied a lot of different things. Like at college I did fine art and I did history and I did textiles for a bit. I was really bad at all the coursework, but I really loved being in those classes and like being around the people that like taking those things. And so and then when I was around 18 and I'd been playing around like with my friends, we weren't taking it really seriously at that point. It was just figuring it out and seeing where it would take me really. And then I just from that point carried on writing until this point really.
And then live, because you're doing a lot of live performances. Your earlier work was a little bit more electronic. And now it's more life oriented. What is it like writing with like the live experience in mind?
I think recently I've been in the studio with my band who I play live shows with. And something that I think is like really healthy about that is you don't just end up with pieces of a song that then are quite hard to translate in a live sense. Like everything you sing in the moment with the band when you go to write is something that you can easily do at a show. So I think my early music was quite electronic because naturally in that period you would go into a studio and usually you'd have like a laptop or a computer, which was amazing because it meant that anybody, if they could get that set up, could make music in their room or like in whatever space you could find, like even on the train or whatever, like people make music, which is really cool. But it was actually when I met Gotye Park that it really sort of came to my attention and like became way more obvious to me that all the music that I'd been listening to and all the music that I loved and had been referencing since the beginning was all made like in that way where it was just like musicians just got in a room and they just played.
And feeding off each other. And like,
that's it, and just reacting, following their instinct. And when I met Gotye Park for the first time, that's when it really became apparent that that should be the way that I make music. For myself.
Because you've also been touring with Michael Kiwanuka. What was that like? What have you learned from touring with him so far?
I love his music, and generally when you get the opportunity to support someone who you genuinely really love, you kind of want to study them and observe them as much as you can every night and like work out why they do certain things and when they play certain bits of music in their set, and all of those different things that are really valuable that you don't necessarily get just from going to see someone once. Like that's something that I really love about like supporting on a tour. And as well, I'd only seen him once at Glastonbury in 2019, and I'd listened to his album like more times than I can count really, Love and Hate, and then the new album came out like just before we went on tour, so I got a fair bit of time to listen to that. But with him I feel like his lyrics are so significant, and I just always want to sit by myself and really listen to what he's saying and feel and try and understand why he's saying it when he says it. And then I think when you get to go and see that in person in real life, it really like sinks in. And when you see other people react to that in a similar way that you do when you're in solitude, like you realise like how important those things are.
And thinking of like the life experiences when you're writing.
That's it, exactly. And like what it means to people when it's just there in front of them, and what it means to them to be able to go and see that. And I guess some people have like an emotional attachment to certain music for a certain period in their life. I think everybody has that, you know.
Of course,
with all different sorts of music. And when you get to see that.
That's cool. It's awesome.
That's it,
Also, what are your wishes for the new year? When it comes to your career, like what do you wish? Where would you want to stand?
I have this thing where I like impulsively make wishes in my head all the time.
I do the same thing.
Like, and sometimes like, why did I wish for that? Like, what the hell? But the most serious things that I'm wishing for, I guess, are creating and completing and releasing my debut album and doing more shows really, and then seeing where that takes me for this year and the year after, hopefully.
Is there a specific venue that you have in your mind where you would like to stand?
This is a good question. It's funny because I really don't know like that many places. I know about certain places like Carnegie Hall because certain singers that I'm interested in obviously performed there in their time, but I don't even know if people still do shows there. Like,
I mean, I'm not sure either. You should look it up.
But like as I get to travel more with music and stuff, I see that there's just like all of these beautiful places that I've never even heard of. So just more of that stuff really. Like I love performing in old-fashioned theatres. So when we end up stumbling across a venue like that on tour, I'm always like really happy.
And then one last question, because what's very crazy is the prizes that you've won so far.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, you're almost on on almost every one to watch list this year. You won BBC Music Sound of 2020, and you won the prestigious Rising Star Award. What I find so beautiful to see is how embracive you are of all these things. Because cool. You've said in an interview, you have to rise to it. Why not? It's what you want. I feel like I got the energy for it now.
Yeah, that's true. I think this is something that I've been working towards for quite a while, and I didn't necessarily picture that I would get those awards at this stage, or you don't even know if you'll get those things ever, really. Because there's plenty of credible artists that don't really obtain those things until like way later on in their career. So yeah, I just saw it really as a moment to celebrate, and then also just realise like the opportunities that could be ahead of me, kind of thing. Yeah.
Congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.